Dile and Namaskar everyone. My today's topic of discussion is planning. Nothing can affect the success and failure of a business more than the planning function of an enterprise. The globalized and highly dynamic work environment strives for effective planning and its management. Planning is the main function of management. A successful and efficient business manager scans the environmental conditions of a business organization and forecasting the future business conditions. Planning is a two-way process of looking back to derive the future course of action. Ons and O'Donnell has defined planning as deciding in advance what to do, how to do, and who is to do it. Planning bridges the gap between where we are and where we want to go. It makes possible things to occur which would not otherwise occur. It is a detailed and comprehensive blueprint of organizational function in future. Planning involves a thorough examination of an organization's available physical as well as human resources to coordinate and contribute towards organizational activities. This basic management function involves developing a detailed organizational plan to balance between needs and demands of organizational resources and achieve organizational results thereof. Thus, planning is thinking in advance where we are and where we want to go. Features and characteristics of planning. Planning is primary function of management. Planning is future oriented. Planning is goal oriented. Planning is continuous process. Planning is an intellectual process, and planning aims at efficiency. Planning provides the base for another function of management. Planning provides the foundation for managerial action by specifying the objectives and the ways of achieving them. Thus, we could say that planning is the most important primary functions of management. Planning is future oriented. Planning is looking ahead and preparing for future, which is based on proverbs look before you leap. It is preparing organizations to meet future challenges and opportunities. To reduce the uncertainty of future, managers adopt the scientific method of forecasting. Planning seeks to achieve certain goals of the organization. Planning is a usual exercise when it does contribute in some positive way to the accomplishment of desired objectives. It also ensures the actions that would lead to the desired results quickly and economically. Plans are prepared for a specific time period. At the end of a specific time, new plans have to be prepared. On the same way, the existing plans must be revised when change take place in the condition. Planning involves choice, and it is the process of choosing among alternative course of actions. Therefore, we can say planning is an ongoing process. Creative thinking and imagination of planning is a mental exercise. It depends on intellect of a human being. If a manager had foresight, vision, and sound judgment, then he can prepare sound plans. A mental predisposition to think before acting is required in planning. Plans are designed to achieve the objective in the best manner. Efficiency means the achievement with the last amount of resources. A plan is worthless if it is not cost effective. A good plan should provide maximum satisfaction at the last cost. Planning is related to future, and future is uncertain. Plans will fail to achieve the objectives if unfavorable changes take place in future. Managers have to be ready in changing their plans so that changes do not fail the plans. Importance of planning. Planning provides direction. Planning decreases the chances of risk. Planning decreases overlapping and wasteful activities. Planning encourages innovative ideas. Planning aids decision making. Planning assures that all the objectives are certainly asserted so that they serve as a model for determining what action should be taken and in which direction. If objectives are well established, employees are informed of what the company has to do and what they need to do to accomplish those purposes. Planning is an activity which permits a manager to look forward and predict changes. By determining in prior the task to be completed, planning notes the way to deal with changes and unpredictable effects. Planning works as the foundation of organizing the activities and purposes of distinct branches, departments, and people. Since planning guarantees precision in understanding and action, work is conducted on easily without delays. Since it is the primary function of management, new approaches can take the form of actual plans. It is most challenging project for management as it leads all plan actions pointing to growth of the business. Planning encourages the manager to look into the future and make a decision from amongst several alternatives plans of action. The manager has to assess each opinion and pick the most viable plan. Planning process or steps involved in planning process. The first and foremost objective of an organization is setting up of organizational objectives. For an effective planning, objectives need to be stated clearly and must be precise and unambiguous. Unclear and ambiguous objectives lead to chaos and wastages. Objectives set under the planning process can be for the entire organization, for each department, units, and employees. It can be short term as well as long term based on the organization's desire to achieve. Objective stated in qualitative terms can be optimistic but not precise. Planning is all about predicting the uncertain future. To carry out the business activities, to forecast the future, certain assumptions about the future need to be made by the planning managers. These assumptions serve as a base to create a premise for developing a plan of action. This is called planning premises. These assumptions are made in the form of forecast. In general, business parlance, enterprises forecast the demand for a product, inflation prediction, tax regime, interest rates, government interventions, etc. Thus, to develop an effective plan, accurate forecasting is essential. This step involves the identification of a maximum number of alternatives based on the type of project. An important project requires detailed and comprehensive identification of alternatives than the general one. A detailed statement of alternatives is presented amongst the members of the organization to be discussed about the selection of alternatives. After identification of various alternative courses of actions, each action is examined in terms of their planning, pros and cons. The positive and negative aspects of each course of action is evaluated concerning the objective of an organization. For a financial plan of an organization, the risk return of the project is taken into consideration. The plan with higher risk tends to have higher profit earning and is evaluated in terms of EPS, earnings, taxes, dividends, and interests, etc. At this point, the final decision is taken. The best plan in terms of maximum benefits and minimum cost is adopted for implementation. The plan chosen would be feasible, profitable, and tend to yield higher profits and the least cost. At this stage, various managerial functions come into the picture as the best selected plan is implemented. In this stage, the implementation of the action takes place, that is, doing what is required. For a production department, an objective is to increase production more than the labor. Then organization may implement a plan that involves more investments in machinery. The last stage is crucial as it involves seeing whether selected and implemented plan is working as per plans or not. This stage is essential and requires close monitoring to assess deviation in selection and implementation and to achieve desired objectives. Limitations of planning. Uncertainty. Owing to the uncertain nature of the future, planning function tends to be ineffective as nothing can be assessed about future with surety. So planning is prone to failure many times. As planning is about the future course of action can only be based on anticipation, assumptions, speculations, and probabilities. Though the data analysis and statistics have been made the planning accurate and effective, yet its 100% success can never be ensured. Planning, being the cognitive and intellectual function, requires serious attention, time, and expertise to plan and make decisions. This requires maximum mental involvement and time. Managers who are always grappling with day to day operational problems could not devote much attention and time on planning. As discussed, planning is about predicting future. It involves dealing with vague alternatives. It addresses a question like what if, since it is a function of assumptions, estimation, guesswork, and speculation. Planning works in abstraction with nothing hard and fast and concrete. Setting up of objectives, choosing a course of action to be implemented to achieve those objectives make the planning rigid enough to deviate from the stated path. It leaves no room for freedom at work and makes an organization bureaucratic many times. Thus, planning function is criticized due to its rigidity. Planning is an expensive function both in terms of time and money. It requires huge outlay to assess and estimate information from within and outside the organization. These require investment of time with serious mental and cognitive devotions. Many times, business organizations resort to expert houses offering planning functions from data extraction to data analysis to policy formulations. These outside experts cause huge cost to an organization. To conclude, planning is a fundamental management function that sets the direction for achieving organizational goals. It involves forecasting future conditions, setting objectives, and outlining the steps necessary to reach desired outcomes. Effective planning reduces uncertainty, improves resource utilization, and enhances coordination among teams. It enables proactive decision making and prepare organizations to respond to changing business environment. Ultimately, well executed planning lays the foundation for successful implementation and overall organizational success.